Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the fact that we are effectively now in a recession in the United States. It's going to spiral across the world, so you won't have to wait long if you're elsewhere, like here in the Netherlands. CNN itself, keep in mind, they take economic marching orders from the White House explicitly. They've even bragged about it. Oliver Darcy's bit many moons ago. They get their news together, and then the White House helps them report on it to make it seem more palatable to the public. It's a literal state propaganda, by the way. It's fascism light. Even they, link in the description, archived of course, are acknowledging that a recession is coming. I disagree with them on the basis that it's technically already here. The thing is, when you say it's coming, that's because for another couple of months you're not going to have Q2 data. What happens is that there's a delay between all of the data that you get in a quarter or in a month economically, and when it's compiled and able to be actually released, like as actual raw data, it takes a while. You didn't get Q1 data, of course, until about a month after the first quarter of the year. The first 3 months had ended. You won't get quarter 2 data until probably, late July, maybe August or something. Damningly for the Democrats, if there is a recession, that means that there's a second quarter in the row. The official definition is 2 quarters in a row of the reduction of GDP. We've got one. It decreased by 1.5, I think, in the first quarter. Every indicator says to me that it will. The problem is that you are only a few months out from the midterms, and everyone's talking about the fact that we are now officially in a recession. It's not clear that before midterms you'd actually necessarily have the Q3 data. I mean, things could recover. You could have a 2-month recession, a 2-quarter recession, and that's it. The other problem is that even if it's a short-term and fairly minor recession, like stagflation doesn't get too bad, unemployment doesn't hit double digits, it lasts 8 or 9 months, it's still going to be really, really painful because the world economy is still suffering massively from lockdownerism and other problems. You have a U.S. administration that is completely inept on energy policy, with mainline economists, the Krugman types are admitting it'll probably hit $8 a gallon for gas. At what point can the economy no longer take that level of strain? A recession will point to higher unemployment, probably as well. We're going to be getting new data on that, of course, in a few weeks. I suspect that it will begin rising. So not only, keep in mind the situation. The best case scenario right now under Bidenomics is that you have a relatively short-term recession, 12 months, maybe 18, something like that. So it's not the Great Recession in length. Unemployment doesn't tick up to the double-digit mark, so stagflation occurs, but it doesn't rip your economy completely to shreds, and that neither the housing nor student loan bubbles happen to burst at the same time, nor any other major problems break out. That's the best case scenario. Effectively, the best possible outcome for the economy right now from that side of the issue is that we end up in a recession, but it's not a legendarily bad one. At this point, I think that I would hazard a guess it'll be longer than that. It'll be sharper than that. And there will be, unfortunately, I think, a housing bubble collapse. The housing market collapsing at the same time that you're in a recession would be worse than the Great Recession. It could prolong it for a very long time. The hope is that the things don't go to hell before the midterms so that Biden's policies can be constrained, because you need to go through the short-term pain in order to alleviate the condition faster, as opposed to doing like what Obama did, which is give huge amounts of money to corporations and big banks to keep them afloat, absorbing more wealth into the top end of the economy, screwing small businesses and homeowners, and leading, by the way, partially to the consolidation of wealth and of housing, BlackRock and Vanguard and so forth, and all of the other problems that the liberals themselves are constantly harping on today. It dates back to the Great Recession policies. It was Obama's fault. It was the golden parachutes for executives. It was the bailouts for big banks that should have been allowed to collapse outright and the holders be subsidized instead of trying to keep the bank afloat when it clearly had shitty policies and wasn't efficient. We should have let that part of the economy crash and burn and die. Yes, it would have massively impacted unemployment. We could have subsidized things directly on a temporary basis. We would have recovered 5 times faster. That's not the policy that Biden would implement. He would pump the economy even more, and increasing inflation even more. Right now he's talking about the possibility of writing off the student loan debt off up to $10,000 for people making under some arbitrary amount. You are effectively saying that some half-employed 20-year-old who's not going to college, they don't have the time, they got to flip burgers double shift, should be taxed, because that's what inflation is, a tax on the poor and lower classes in general, should have to pay an inflation-based tax for someone making $100,000 a year to have $10,000 less of student loan debt that may not even affect their payments. They might not be able to do anything with that. It's woefully inefficient. It's inflationary. Virtually every policy Biden has proposed or used has been inflationary. I wonder why there are economic problems right now. It was caused by lockdownerism, and all pro-lockdowner governors should be forced out of office. They don't even wait till the election. Hold a recall. Demand they resign. They should have 0% support for the treason that they enacted against the population. This goes for most world governments at large as well. Lockdownerism should never have been extended the way that it was. The supply chains were throttled. We see that still happening now. And again, we have an administration that is literally anti-energy, even praising the concept of high gas prices. Well, it's part of an incredible transition towards electric vehicles, because the person who is having problem filling up at the pump is obviously, they have 50 grand lying around to buy an electric vehicle. And right now would be, by the way, a really great time for them to take out a loan for a $50,000 automobile if they have that problem. Yeah, right now is the time to get yourself into even more debt. Now, we're talking about bailing people's debt out, and you want people to do that. These people have not fully thought it through. It seems almost like the Biden administration wants to collapse the U.S. economy as part of the Great Reset thing. That's probably the case. Biden doesn't have anything to do with that. He doesn't even know how to change his own socks. He's a goddamn vegetable riddled with disease and Alzheimer's. But the puppeteers, the ones that use him like a little toy, like a Barbie doll, they're malevolent. I've concluded that they're malevolent more than incompetent. Although the messaging, if you want to put these policies forward, pop the bubbles, create the inflation, stagflation, recession conditions, maybe a mini depression or something, by God, you'd think that you'd at least want to have better messaging. I'm thinking there's definitely incompetence there. I have a feeling that it boils down to the fact that all of the cringy staff members that were all hired for diversity in poll purposes are completely incompetent. And so their superiors are scratching their heads because they can probably barely turn on a laptop, and they're relying upon these morons to do the messaging for their Great Reset policies. It's just, my dude, it's just not working very well. Again, though, sum and substance of this, and it's important. You should stock up. You should put in the extra line of fucking beans and prepare to tighten your belt a little bit, because you may have to make some tough decisions, unfortunately. You should steel yourself against a coming depression. Don't even plan for recession. Plan for it to be worse, because if CNN is releasing this, they're mincing words. CNN takes marching orders on economic data and the reporting therefrom directly from the Biden White House. It was bragged about. It is literally White House co-opted propaganda. If they're admitting the recession is inevitably coming, it means that it'll be worse, and it's already here. That's the only thing that I can think about it. That's about all. Peace out.